right.
Great.
Thank you so much, John.
No problem.
Okay, so now I have the chat room open, and so if anybody has any questions while I'm talking, please feel free to put them in the chat, and if I can, I'll try and address them in real time. Sometimes it's more relevant than waiting until the end of the lecture to have that question addressed, and I think it can be helpful for the group also. So today I'm going to be talking about something that I'm actually really excited about. And I appreciate the introduction, just to give a little bit more color to my practice is I really went into medicine hoping to be a healer and got very disillusioned with my conventional training because I felt like to some degree my hands at some point became kind of tied behind my back around managing disease rather than really healing people from it. And therein came the passion around nutrition and lifestyle medicine, and seeing the amazing benefits that changing our diet and changing our lifestyle can have on our well-being and on our disease trajectory. Um, but even in that, my husband and I are partners in our business practice, and we have been since the very beginning of our journey. And it's been wonderful because we're able to kind of use each other, like ping pong off each other, to kind of check in and say, hey, how are we doing? We got the nutrition, we're doing as best we can with our lifestyle. And at some point we realized, well, you know what, there's still things that are not quite right, even though we've optimized the things that most people connect to optimal health, which is our sleep. We're getting 8 hours, check. We're getting our exercise in daily. We're eating a whole food plant-based diet, and being very healthy in that space. And yet we're not as optimized as we wish that we would be. And that's what kind of led us to this path of the 9 pillars. And we're going to get more specifically into what those are. But as we go through the lecture, one of the things that I want people to be listening to is just the 9 pillars are an intention for us to hold a mindfulness and awareness around areas in our lives that when we pay attention to them, we can elevate our experience, take us from illness to wellness, all the way up to wonderful. And why isn't wellness enough? Well, wellness has kind of become this ubiquitous phrase that we hear all the time. I'm well, I feel well, I'm doing well. But it's almost become a baseline that to some degree isn't anywhere near optimization for our overall health and well-being. What I hope to do in my life is to wake up every morning and not just feel well or good enough, but really feel like, you know what? Even through life's ups and downs, I'm feeling pretty wonderful. So let's take that journey together. The first question I always get is, well, why should I care? I feel good. If you're living your best life, if you can take inventory and say, I wouldn't change a thing, then maybe this is not relevant for you. But everyone else, everyone that says, you know what, I could feel better. I want to feel a little bit better. I could be optimizing different areas of my life. I could pay a little more attention to X, Y, or Z. Then those are the people that I invite to stay tuned. So many of us are living in what we call survival mode, basically fight, flight, or freeze. We're burning the candle at both ends. There's constant stress and exhaustion. We go from thing to thing to thing. We've become human doings over human beings, as John Kabat-Zinn likes to say, where we're constantly doing From the moment we get up, we have our checklist of things that we do. We get up, we exercise, we go to our job, we come back from our job, we take care of our family or take care of ourselves, we maybe hop over to another job. And then by the time we get to bed, we're exhausted. We really get to burnout. In that survival mode, something happens in our physiology. A scarcity mentality is born. Survival mode really is our basic life purpose is to survive. And it becomes a survival of the fittest. When we survive, we're self-focused. We're focused on how do we make it through this day. We are nowhere near thriving. We are nowhere near optimized, but we're surviving. When we're in that survival of the fittest, our mentality goes to there's not enough to go around. It's a scarcity. So in that scarcity, the only way to increase my chances are for me to chase more. I want more. More offers me a security, and maybe a false sense of security, but a sense of security nonetheless. The more I have, the more shelter, the more resources, the more money, the better job, the bigger house, the more I feel like I have some insulation from this scarcity mentality. The more I have, the more I increase my chances to survive. But more is a never-ending game, because when does more end? It doesn't. There's always the opportunity for more. I can always have more. And the impact on our health and our well-being of constantly chasing more is significant. What happens is that living in survival mode, it presents it prevents a sense of safety. It actually presents a sense of danger, and that over time manifests as disease. Now, the challenge here is that we are innately programmed to seek out danger. And it makes sense in our environment, right? For our ancestors, it served a purpose. When they're out foraging for food and they see the tiger coming at them, they don't want to start thinking, oh, what should I do? Does the tiger look hungry? Is the tiger, maybe he wants to be friends. Maybe he's just going to run past me. No, they see the tiger running, danger, fight or flight. They want to move. They want to run. This is not the time to think or analyze or rationalize or anything of the sort. We're programmed that way, and our brains continue to scan for danger. We have to actively put on a safety brake to take us from our sympathetic fight, flight, or freeze to our parasympathetic rest, digest, and thrive. When we're chasing more, when we're seeing the world's resources as scarce, when we're feeling chronically stressed to get what is ours, it's a signal of danger. That danger elicits the sympathetic system, the fight, flight, or freeze. A chronic sense of danger eventually leads to disease. This is because all types of threats are physiologically and chemically identical. For our ancestors, what happened was they saw the tiger, they ran from the tiger, they got to safety, they had an extinction burst of their stress, and they were able to recover, recoup, and get better. So the stress, because stress in and of itself is not a bad thing, it's actually necessary, but it goes up and down, right? We have that burst of stress, and then we're able to recover. What's happening right now is physical, emotional, psychological, and spiritual threats. They all are causing the same response in our body. But when we go beyond running from an actual tiger to getting that same stimulation when we're even anticipating seeing a tiger, when we fear the thought of the possibility of being in the room with that tiger, that's a stress that stays with us constantly. It doesn't leave. And that constant stress, the inability to recover, leads to that sense of danger, which leads to an inflammatory cascade in our system. On a cellular, chemical, and neurological level, we incite an inflammatory cascade. And that chronic inflammation eventually leads to disease, and it affects all our organ systems. Many of us, on some, even if you don't know the extent that we just talked about today, there's an inherent awareness around the danger of staying in fight, flight, or freeze all the time. There's a knowing of the benefits of eliciting the parasympathetic response, the relaxation response, the rest, digest, and thrive response. We cannot live in fight, flight, or freeze all the time. We will eventually burn out. So we know what fight, and flight feels like. We know that chronic stress is harmful to our health. And we know the benefits of stress reduction, and we aim to implement it in a variety of different ways. But still, even with the buzzword, oh, let's reduce our stress, reduce your stress, be mindful, be aware, be present, so many of us still remain stressed. And this is not just us now, it's the younger generations as well. And at a younger age, there's this, the stress it takes its toll, and it's taking its toll at younger and younger and younger ages. So what do we do about it? What do we do when we know the things that we're doing in our lives right now are not working and that we need to make a shift? But the buzzwords that we're hearing, mindfulness, stress reduction, it's not cutting it. Somehow it's not we're not getting clear enough, or it's not resonating into our systems in a way that's actually impacting health and wellness, right? And that can be on a variety of different planes. It can be in our foods. So many of us know what we should be eating and what we shouldn't be eating. And yet taking that from the theoretical to the practical is a really big step. And for a lot of people, the step that they continue to struggle with despite knowing. So it's not about knowing, right? It's not about knowing what we need to do. It's about how do we actually get to a space where we can, when we're resourced enough, regulated enough, and connected enough to actually impact and make change. And what we like to do at We Heal is, and this is where the 9 pillars are, they're presented as an infinity loop. And the reason that they're presented as an infinity loop is because they all interact with one another. So there is a connection with all of them. And I'll give you the 9 pillars first, and then we'll talk about how they're connected. So there's at the core of the 9 pillars is the self, and we're going to get into each one of these individually, but there's the self, sleep, nutrition, activity, play. That is our internal world, what we like to call our opportunity for resourcing, the things that we can do ourselves to optimize our own health and well-being. And then there's the external world, the world of our friends, our family, our work, our spirituality, our natural world, those things that make up our environment and our most important relationships. At the core of that is regulation, resourcing, and connection. And they're placed in very specific places. So regulation starts with self. How do we help our nervous system feel less nervous, feel more safe? How do we apply that safety brake when we're so apt to scan for danger? You really want to downregulate your threat response and increase your body's sense of safety and calm. This helps you go from that first picture of fear and frustration, our worries, our stress, our anxieties, our doubts, whatever we're holding on to that is eliciting that fight, flight, or freeze, to calm, safe, love, happiness, joy, trust, peace, right? That is the active safety brake that's coming. Safety can happen in a variety of different ways. Our brain can tell our body can tell our brain. So it's a real bidirectional flow. Um, so we can tell, okay, if I just take 5 breaths, let me try mindfulness or breathing or meditation, or we can smile. And when we smile, we send our brain the message, oh, okay, I'm smiling. I wouldn't be smiling if there were a tiger here. So I'm smiling because I actually feel safe. A soft gaze in our eyes tells our brain, okay, I'm safe. We don't do that if we're glaring at a tiger, our eyes are bugging out and we're trying to decide where to run. Our neck muscles, when we notice them and can kind of feel them loosening up, softening, relaxing, that sends our body a message of safety. That tells us it's okay to relax. Versus, and I imagine many of us can relate to, we come home from a long day or a stressful day, and our body is so tight. Our shoulders are up, and we may not even notice it. Our neck is tight. That neck tension and tightness leads to headaches, jaw pain, so many different things. One thing that I really love is, and that I find really helpful, actually, 2 things. One is deep breathing, because I can do it anywhere. And the other is touch. One of our favorite techniques for regulation and safety, and we do this in our family, we call it 5-finger breathing. And it can be done anywhere, and it can be done really quickly. And what it is you can put up your hand and you trace your fingers. And as you trace your fingers, because touch is also one of those indicators of safety and regulation. And so we apply not only the breathing, but the touch together to enhance that sense of safety and regulation and relaxation. And you go up and you breathe in, and you go down and you breathe out. And up and you breathe in, and down and you breathe out. And you can do that through all of your fingers. We like to do that with our daughters. We'll either trace their fingers or they trace ours, and we all breathe together. There's a co-regulation that happens when you share that experience with another person. And you're mirroring each other's sense of safety and relaxation. Another thing that I'm really excited about and is working really well for our family is a really fun and neat device called the Weeby Call. And we can, what we do is we take a really deep breath in and breathe out while you loft the ball. And you try and hold that ball up aloft for about 10 seconds. So you're really inducing a slow exhalation. And that slow exhalation is really effective at regulating and bringing your body back to that parasympathetic rest, digest, thrive response, um, and that safety signal. The next part of that infinity loop was the resourcing. So those are the areas that we can independently optimize our own health with. And we talked about self, nutrition, activity, play, and sleep. We at We Heal, we start with self. And the reason for that is if we're not self-aware, if we are unable to self-connect, it's going to be very hard to do any of these other things in a way that's mindful and creates that sense of safety that ultimately, oh, it's called a weebie calm, and I'm gonna name that this is something that we my husband and I are a part of too, but it's a really cool and fun device. It's weebie calm, and and like I said, our family loves it. And it comes in really handy because a lot of us know how to breathe, right? In theory, we know how to breathe. But often when we get into it or when we're trying, we're so ramped up, we're so worked up. What this does, and what I love most about it, is it forces almost that really slow exhalation. And that is the key to eliciting that relaxation response. So that's what I love about it. But okay, so going back to the self, if we're not self-connected, we're not going to be able to see these other facets that are needing our attention. Um, so it really starts with, even if, even if we wake up in the morning and we've got our checklist, and many of us do. I need to go to the gym. I need to make healthy food. I need to walk my dog. I need to get the kids to school. And we're checking off the boxes. I need to get to work. These are the tasks that I need to do at work, and so on and so forth. You can even hear in my voice the tension and uh, the almost, there's a stress response in, I got to get everything off the list. I got to get everything off the list. So even though we're eating the healthy foods and even though we're exercising, we are not sending our body a sense of safety. We're doing just the opposite. So we're doing all the right things, and yet our body is still in that inflammatory cascade, because the intention that we're setting for ourselves as we're doing it is, I got to get this done. It's burning that candle at both ends. It's in that survival mode mentality that we are entering our daily living. And connecting to yourself gives you a moment or moments throughout the day where you can slow it down. And this, I'm not talking hours, right? I know how much we have to do in a day, and that it's not realistic to say, okay, I'm just going to, sit um and meditate for hours at a time. So this is not about that, but it is about loving and caring for ourselves moment to moment, and moments are short amounts of time. It's being able to say, oh, I'm noticing my tension in my shoulders. I'm noticing that I'm breathing really shallow. I'm noticing a tightness in my stomach. My jaw is clenched. My eyes are um, intense, right? There's an intensity about me. What is happening for me? What is going on? Let me check in right now. Okay. That doesn't take too long. And the insight that you can get from that and the safety that it sends to your brain, oh, I'm taking a moment for true self-care. I'm taking a moment to connect to what am I actually feeling and needing right now. It's the antidote to artificial harmony, suppression, and repression. So much of our day when we're living in survival mode or when we're bouncing from one thing to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing, is about suppression and repression. We don't even check in with ourselves to see what is the impact of my actions today. Yes, I got all of this stuff done, but what was the cost to me that I got all of that stuff done? So often we don't even get a chance to, I liken this to, I don't know if any of you have seen Runaway Bride with Julia Roberts, but there's this one classic scene in that movie where she's a bride that kind of mimics any of her beaux, right? So whoever her fiance is at the time, that's kind of the identity that she assumes. If it's a rocker, it's a rocker. If it's somebody who's more religious, she's more religious. If it's somebody who's an outdoorsy person, she's more outdoorsy. And this one scene is somebody calling her on the fact that she doesn't even know how she likes her eggs. And so you see her with plates of different types of eggs, and she's tasting them for the first time as an adult, trying to figure out, well, what do I actually like? How often do we sit with ourselves and ask ourselves, what do I actually like? What do I not like? What do I want to keep in my life? What am I ready to let go of? That is active living. That is mindful living. That is deliberate, intentional living. Whereas so much of living in survival mode is living on autopilot. And the cost of that, the cost of living on autopilot, living in what we call artificial harmony, which is an inability to be authentic, starting with ourselves, leads to chronic under-resourcing. Chronic under-resourcing leads to lingering stress. Lingering stress leads to disease. And this is heart disease, anxiety, depression, inflammation, obesity, reflux, gastritis, colitis, impaired immune function, decreased ability to cope, and the lack of resilience. So how do we connect with ourselves? There are many different ways to do that. Some people do it through journaling, um, and beyond journaling, something called expressive writing. And the difference is that expressive writing is intended to release suppression and repression, to bring out things that may not be in our conscious awareness. And how it works and the reason that it works is because it's a very liberating thing that you actually don't keep if you don't want to. So you can take a piece of paper and you write for 5 minutes, anything that comes to mind. You're not worried about punctuation, about spelling, about grammar. You don't even have to worry about handwriting. Sometimes it can be completely illegible, but you're getting out thoughts that are seated deep within you. And when you're done, one, we get insight on, oh, what is really eating me up inside? What's really living there that's creating this sense of stress? And oftentimes that's the insight to why, oh, just breathing or just healthy eating, or just exercising isn't enough. Because deep, deep within is something more that I need to tend to. Maybe it's disconnection with a partner, dissatisfaction at work, trouble with a family. And so the beauty about this expressive writing is once you've done the exercise, and you can do it daily, you can do it multiple times a day, you can release that paper. Some people burn it, some people rip it up, some people shred it. It's gone. It was yours and only yours to reveal information to yourself. Feelings and needs is another really important way to connect to yourselves. It's and another one of the more insightful ways to do that. So many of us, we know when we're mad, we know when we're happy, but do we know when we're excited? Do we know when we're feeling playful? Do we know when we're feeling a desire for a need for discovery or exploration, or there are so many. One of the things that is helpful in this feelings and needs space is, and needs are something that are universal. We all have needs. A lot of times in survival mode, the cost of getting all of those things done is we sacrifice our own needs. We don't connect to what we're actually needing. We use external validation, external stimuli to guide us through our day-to-day versus internally checking in to how we want to show up, what we actually want to do, what is working for us, what is not working for us. One of the biggest indicators for meeting our needs is feelings. When we have pleasant feelings, that's indicative that our needs are getting met. We're peaceful and comfortable, maybe because we're nourished, and we are feeling rested because we're able to, our need for sleep was met. We are feeling connected because our need for intimacy or relationship or friendship were met. We're feeling alive, maybe because we met our needs for discovery and curiosity. We're feeling fulfilled. Maybe we met our needs for meaning and purpose. So when we have those pleasant feelings, our needs are met. When we have unpleasant feelings, there are needs that are not met. Now, when we can connect to that, it doesn't even mean that we need to change the outcome, but we start noticing what needs of mine continually go unmet. What needs of mine do I suppress and repress? What needs of mine are so low on the totem pole that I show up out of obligation most of my life, that I build resentment toward the things that I need to do or have to get done, that I go to a space of numbness, right? That's the suppression and repression, just to be in that survival mode and get it done. So the more that we can connect to our pleasant and unpleasant feelings, the more we can use those to indicate to us, okay, the message is either, oh, things are going well, I'm having all these pleasant emotions, I'm actually meeting important needs, okay. Or I'm getting the message that there are needs that are not met. This is an opportunity to explore and dive a little deeper. What am I actually needing? And then how do I go about meeting those needs? Right. So a lot of times we live when we're in survival mode, we live on a strategy level. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And it's very binary. We either, we can, our world becomes very contracted in that survival scarcity mentality. We attach to one thing, the one outcome that we can get, right? And that could look like I am so exhausted. I'm coming home to my family and it's dinner time. I either have to make dinner or I'm not making dinner. But if I don't make dinner, what does that mean for my family? Right? It's binary versus, wait a minute, I'm exhausted and I don't feel like making dinner, but what can we do here as a family? Maybe my family can come together. Maybe everybody can do a little bit and we can get dinner. Maybe we can get dinner out. Maybe we can really do just cereal for dinner today and make it very simple because I'm tired.